Sophie had always dreamed of working at FrostCorp, the nation's most powerful tech empire. What she didn't expect was that her boss, Adrian Frost, the cold, terrifyingly handsome CEO, would be the real-life villain from her favorite manga series. Only, she had transmigrated into that very manga. Adrian Frost, the ruthless Ice King who crushed emotions, careers, and anyone who dared cross him. And Sophie, just an intern who knew every dark twist of his tragic story. When she first saw him in person, tall and commanding in his pristine suit, those chilling gray eyes locked on her. "You're late," he said, voice like frost. Sophie gulped. "Great. First day in the villain's lair. I'm going to die by paperwork before the plot even starts." To her horror, Adrian's eyes widened ever so slightly. "What did you just say?" "Wait." He could hear her thoughts. Sophie froze, literally and mentally. Her boss, the cold-blooded CEO villain, was staring straight at her like she'd just grown a second head. "You can hear me," she whispered, panicking inside. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "You didn't say anything aloud." "Oh my God, he can hear me. Abort mission, abort mission." He raised an eyebrow. "Mission." Her face turned bright red. I meant the work mission. I'm just very dedicated." Inside, Sophie's mind was screaming. This is the worst. He's literally the manga villain who destroys everyone who lies to him. I'm going to get fired. Or worse, frozen emotionally. Adrian tilted his head slightly, studying her as if she were an unsolved riddle. Then, unexpectedly, he chuckled. It was small, barely audible, but for someone known as the Ice King, it was shocking enough to make the office temperature rise by 10 degrees. "Interesting," he murmured, walking away. "I've never met an intern who could make me laugh." Sophie blinked. "Wait, did I just make the villain laugh? That's not supposed to happen until chapter 10. As she stared after him, her heart began to race. Was she changing the story already? The next morning, Sophie walked into FrostCorp with trembling hands clutching her coffee like a life potion. She kept repeating in her head, don't think about how hot my boss is." From behind her came that same low, calm voice. "You think I'm what, Miss Rivera?" She nearly dropped her coffee. Adrian Frost stood there, immaculate as ever, his tie perfect, his expression unreadable, except for the faintest, smug curve at the corner of his lips. "I didn't say anything." "No," he said smoothly, "but I heard it." Her brain melted. "Kill me now, please. Let the office floor swallow me whole." He glanced sideways, eyes glinting like silver ice. "I've been testing it," he said casually, as if discussing the weather. "Your mind's frequency seems to resonate within a 2-meter range." "T-testing it." Adrian's gaze softened for a second. "I'm a man of logic. When something intriguing happens, I like to understand it." Sophie blinked, stunned. "He's actually studying how to hear my thoughts. This is so unfair. He's the villain with super hearing, and I'm just the intern with anxiety." He smiled faintly again. "That's a surprisingly accurate summary." Sophie gasped. "Stop reading me." "I can't help it," he said, his tone almost teasing. "You think so loudly." For the first time, she noticed something strange in his eyes, not just coldness, but curiosity and warmth trying to melt through the ice. When he turned to leave, he added quietly, "Don't worry, Miss Rivera. I'll keep your little secret if you keep mine." His secret. He's actually kind of nice when he's not terrifying. He paused mid-step. "Careful, I heard that." Her face turned crimson. Maybe, just maybe, this villain wasn't so villainous after all. Sophie promised herself one thing that morning. No more thinking around the Ice King. It lasted exactly 3 minutes. She sat quietly in the FrostCorp boardroom surrounded by executives. Adrian Frost stood at the head of the long glass table, effortlessly commanding attention. Every word he spoke was sharp, confident, and smooth, like poetry wrapped in authority. Sophie tried to focus on the charts, but her mind betrayed her. Why does he have to look that good explaining profit margins? Even his hands are elegant. And that jawline. Adrian stopped mid-sentence. The entire room went silent. He slowly turned his head toward her. "Miss Rivera." She froze. "Why, yes, sir." His gaze was unreadable, but his voice was calm, too calm. "Something you'd like to add to the discussion?" Oh no, he heard everything. I think the jawline, the margin looks strong. Very sharp, sir." Every executive blinked in confusion. Adrian's lip twitched like he was suppressing laughter. "Strong margins," he repeated, clearly amused. "I see." The rest of the meeting passed in awkward silence, except for the fact that every time Sophie tried not to think about Adrian, she somehow thought even more. At the end, as everyone left, Adrian lingered behind. He approached Sophie, leaning close enough that she could feel the chill of his cologne, mint, cedar, and something faintly electric. "Miss Rivera," he murmured, "if you keep thinking about my jawline in meetings, I might start to believe you're flirting." Sophie's face turned tomato red. "I was not flirting. Okay, maybe a little." He smirked, noted. Then softly, so only she could hear. "You make this job much more entertaining." As he walked away, Sophie's heart thudded wildly. The Ice King had smiled at her. And for the first time, she realized she wanted to make him smile again. The storm hit, just as Sophie was finishing her overtime reports. Most employees had already gone home, but she stayed, trying to prove she wasn't just the intern who thinks about her boss's jawline. Thunder rumbled outside, the city lights flickering across the glass windows of FrostCorp's towering building. Sophie sighed. "Why am I always the last one here? At least Mr. Frost must have gone home already." A voice answered from behind her. "Who said I went home?" She nearly jumped out of her chair. Adrian Frost stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, and for the first time ever he looked human. "Sir, I had just finishing the..." He walked closer, quiet and composed. "You're afraid of thunder." Sophie blinked. What? No, I'm not." Another loud boom. She flinched, clutching the desk. He smirked gently. "You don't need to lie. I can hear it in your head." Her heart pounded. This is so unfair. You're not supposed to read my embarrassing thoughts while looking that good. He chuckled softly. "Embarrassing, huh?" She turned crimson. "Please stop reading my mind." He leaned on her desk, his tone softer now. "I'm trying, but your thoughts are loud tonight." Another flash of lightning lit up the office. Without thinking, Sophie whispered, "You're not as cold as everyone says, are you?" Adrian's expression shifted, a brief flash of surprise, then something almost tender. He tilted his head, eyes searching hers. "You really think that?" "Yes, I think you're lonely." He froze. For once, the man who always had control seemed shaken. After a long pause, he said quietly, "No one ever seen that side of me before." Outside, the storm softened to gentle rain. And for a few precious moments, the Ice King and his clumsy intern just stood there, two hearts quietly thawing in the glow of the city. By the time the rain finally eased, FrostCorp's lights glimmered like stars above the wet streets. Sophie gathered her bag and sighed in relief, only to find Adrian waiting by the elevator. "Leaving now?" he asked, voice low, calm as ever. "Why, yes, sir," she said quickly. "The buses stopped because of the storm, so I'll just walk." "You'll do no such thing," he interrupted. "It's late, I'll drive you." Sophie blinked. "Drive me." "Do you see anyone else here who can?" he said, pressing the elevator button. She followed nervously, trying not to think, which of course meant she thought everything. "He smells too good. Why does the villain smell like heaven?" He didn't look at her, but the faint smirk tugging at his lips said everything. The car ride was silent, at least on the outside. On the inside, Sophie's brain was a screaming concert. Stay calm. Don't think about his hands on the steering wheel, or his hair, or how the lightning makes him look like a tragic prince. "I heard all of that," he murmured, eyes still on the road. Sophie groaned. This is my personal nightmare." He laughed, a real warm laugh that made her heart flutter. "I find your mind refreshing," he said softly. "Everyone else filters what they say, you don't." She turned to him, surprised. "That's because I can't. You literally hear everything." He smiled, and for once it wasn't teasing, it was gentle. "I like that honesty," he said. "It makes me feel normal." Her chest tightened. For a man who could control everything, normal sounded like something he'd never had. When they stopped in front of her small apartment, she hesitated. "Thank you, Mr. Frost." He looked at her for a long moment, rain still tracing down the windows. "You can call me Adrian," he said quietly. "Adrian," she thought, testing the sound in her mind. He smiled. "Yes, just like that." Her heart flipped. And as she stepped out of the car, she could have sworn she heard him whisper, not out loud, but straight into her mind. "Good night, Sophie." The next morning, Sophie woke up feeling like she'd dreamed the whole thing. The thunderstorm, the car ride, Adrian saying she could call him by his first name. No way that actually happened, right? Then her phone buzzed. Message from Adrian Frost. "Don't forget the presentation file." And yes, it happened. She stared at the screen, blushing furiously. "Oh my God, he's in my phone, he's in my head, he's everywhere." At FrostCorp, the office buzzed like a hive. Rumors were flying faster than emails. "I heard Mr. Frost drove an intern home last night." "No way, he doesn't even talk to the board members." "Maybe she's his type." Sophie nearly dropped her coffee. "WH what? Who told you that?" Her friend Mia from HR winked. "Girl, the cameras caught his car leaving with you. Half the office is dying of curiosity." Sophie's brain spiraled. "If Adrian hears any of this, I'll never survive." Survive what? She turned. There he was, standing right behind her, flawless in his tailored suit. Mr. Frost, Adrian, I mean." He leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. "Relax, I'm used to rumors," but his eyes flicked around the office. "Are you?" She swallowed hard. "Not really." Something flickered in his expression, protectiveness. "Then let me handle it," he said firmly, placing a hand on her desk. At that exact moment, a strange pulse of energy rippled between them. Both froze. He looked at her sharply. "Did you feel that?" Sophie nodded slowly. "Like static." Adrian frowned, eyes narrowing in thought. "It's stronger near you. Every time I hear your thoughts, it happens." Her heart skipped. So, his power might be connected to me. He smirked slightly. "That's one possibility. The other is that you're just dangerously distracting." She blushed. "Why you're teasing me?" "Only because I can hear how much you enjoy it," he said smoothly, walking away before she could even speak. Sophie groaned, covering her face. Between gossip, weird psychic energy, and a dangerously charming villain-turned-CEO, her life was officially a romantic disaster in progress. "For research purposes," Sophie repeated, blinking. Adrian Frost, CEO, rumored villain, and accidental telepathic heartthrob, simply nodded. "I need to understand the connection between your thoughts and my ability. The company lab is private enough." Sophie blinked again. "So your solution is taking me to your villa?" He smirked. "Do you prefer I run psychic tests in the middle of the cafeteria?" Touché. The villa was nothing like she imagined. It wasn't cold and metallic like his office. It was warm. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a forest blanketed in early snow, the light golden from the afternoon sun. "Wow," she breathed. "It's beautiful." He glanced at her, faintly smiling. "You thought I'd live in an ice castle, didn't you?" Her mind instantly betrayed her. "Okay, maybe I pictured you on a throne made of frozen tears and corporate contracts." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You truly have a vivid imagination." He guided her to a sleek table, scattered with notebooks, and a strange-looking headset. "Sit," he said gently. "This won't hurt." As he placed the sensor band around her head, Sophie's heart thudded faster than any experiment monitor could track. He leaned close, too close. Her breath hitched. If he keeps standing that near, I'm going to melt before the ice does. I heard that, he murmured, amused. She groaned. That's cheating. The test began, a series of questions, thoughts, and emotional cues. Every time she thought something sincere, a faint blue glow appeared on the monitor. But when her heart skipped, when she looked at him, the light turned gold. Adrian frowned, intrigued. Gold again. That only happens when you're emotional. Emotional, more like hopelessly flustered. He exhaled softly, his voice dropping. It reacts to you, not anyone else, which means... He met her gaze, eyes gentler than she'd ever seen. You might be the reason I can hear thoughts at all. Sophie's breath caught. You mean? Without you, he said quietly, I might go back to silence. The air between them shimmered with that same golden light. Neither moved, neither spoke. For the first time, the Ice King didn't look cold at all. And Sophie realized, maybe this wasn't just research anymore. Sophie had never seen snowfall so fast. One moment, the forest outside Adrian's villa was peaceful. The next, thick white flakes swallowed the world. She pressed her nose to the window. Adrian, I think we have a problem. He joined her at the glass, hands in his pockets, eyes calm as ever. The weather reports were wrong again. The roads will be impassable until morning. Morning, she squeaked. You'll have to stay here tonight, he said simply. I'll have the staff prepare a guest room. Her heart immediately betrayed her. Oh no, alone, overnight, with my telepathic boss who happens to look like a fallen angel. I'm doomed. I'm flattered by the fallen angel part, he murmured with a smile, though I don't recall falling. She covered her face. Stop reading my mind. I told you, he said, voice amused. I can't help it when you think so loudly. Hours later, the villa glowed with firelight. The staff had gone home before the storm hit, leaving only Sophie, Adrian, and the sound of the crackling hearth. Sophie sat wrapped in a blanket on the couch, a mug of cocoa in her hands. Adrian sat opposite her, reading through a stack of files or pretending to. Her mind wandered. He looks softer here, less like a villain, more like a man who's just tired of being alone. He looked up at once, meeting her gaze. You shouldn't say things like that. I didn't say it, she whispered. He set the papers down. Exactly. The firelight danced in his gray eyes, turning them silver gold. Sophie, he said quietly, you're changing me. She froze. What do you mean? He leaned closer, elbows on his knees. Ever since I met you, the cold doesn't feel the same. I don't hear the noise in people's minds anymore, only yours. It's peaceful. Her heart pounded. This is too much. He's too close. He can probably hear how fast my heart is beating. I can, he whispered, smiling faintly. And it's beautiful. Before she could reply, the lights flickered, the storm roaring outside. She gasped, instinctively clutching his sleeve. Adrian didn't pull away. Instead, he said softly, You're safe here, with me. The wind howled, the fire cracked. And for a moment, the Ice King's heart melted just enough for Sophie to see the warmth beneath. When Sophie opened her eyes, soft morning light spilled across the villa's living room. The storm had passed, leaving the world blanketed in white. The faint scent of something burning drifted through the air. Is that smoke? She mumbled, sitting up. From the kitchen came a low curse. It wasn't supposed to catch fire. She peeked around the corner. Adrian Frost, the legendary Ice King, stood in front of the stove wearing a perfectly pressed white shirt and an utterly lost expression. A frying pan hissed accusingly at him. Sophie gasped, You're cooking. He turned, looking entirely unbothered. Attempting to. She bit back a laugh. Oh no, he's actually bad at something. He's human. I heard that, he said flatly, but there was a hint of color at the tips of his ears. Here, she said, stepping forward and taking the spatula from him. You can freeze hostile CEOs with a stare, but you can't handle eggs. He crossed his arms, watching her. I've had chefs my entire life. This isn't a core skill. She grinned. Then let me handle breakfast. You can be my assistant. I don't take orders from interns, he said. You do if you want edible food, she countered. For a second, he looked like he might protest, but then he rolled up his sleeves and joined her. Together they scrambled eggs, toasted bread, and laughed every time the pan sizzled too loud. By the time they sat down at the table, the villa was filled with warmth and the scent of cocoa and toast. Adrian took a bite, eyes widening slightly. It's good. Of course it is. He looked at her across the table, the morning sun glinting in his eyes. I could get used to this, he said softly. Her heart fluttered. Did he mean cooking or me? He smiled faintly. Maybe both. Sophie blushed so hard, she nearly spilled her cocoa. For once, there were no thunderclouds, no icy walls, just two people sharing a quiet breakfast that felt a lot like the start of something new. Back at FrostCorp, Sophie felt the contrast between the warm villa and the cold, gleaming office like a physical shock. The elevators, the marble floors, the hushed whispers, it was all too much after the cozy morning with Adrian. Her friend Mia leaned close, whispering urgently. You do realize half the office thinks you and Mr. Frost are involved. Sophie choked on her coffee. What? And no, that's ridiculous. Mia raised an eyebrow. Really? Because I saw Spencer from accounting practically tripping over himself to tell HR about the CO intern scandal. Sophie groaned. Of course someone would try to ruin me. This is exactly what happens in manga plots. Later, Adrian appeared at her desk, effortlessly cool as always. You look troubled, he said, leaning against her cubicle. I'm fine, she muttered, wishing her brain would stop broadcasting panic signals. He smirked slightly. Not fine, I can hear it. Of course you can, Sophie thought, mentally banging her head against the wall. Before she could protest, Spencer swaggered up, a sly smile plastered on his face. So, you two finally admitted it, huh? Everyone's talking, he said, leaning too close. Adrian's expression froze for half a second, then shifted to icy calm. He leaned in, voice low and dangerous. Miss Rivera, is this true? Sophie stammered. And no, it's he. Adrian turned toward Spencer, eyes piercing like frozen steel. Let me make one thing very clear, he said slowly, voice chilling. Miss Rivera's personal life is none of your concern. You will leave her alone, or... Spencer gulped, suddenly aware of the CEO's intimidating aura. Oh, or what? Adrian's lips curved in a small, terrifying smile. Or I'll personally ensure you regret it. Sophie blushed violently, hiding her face. He's so protective and terrifying, and wow, I'm melting. Spencer muttered something under his breath and retreated. Mia nudged Sophie. Smooth save, Ice King. Adrian leaned closer, whispering so only she could hear. You didn't have to worry. I've got you. Her heart skipped. Yep, definitely melting, and I'm not going to survive this without confessing eventually. It was late afternoon, and the office was quiet. Sophie had stayed behind to finish a project, trying to focus on charts instead of Adrian's smoldering gray eyes that haunted her thoughts. She muttered under her breath, thinking aloud without meaning to. Why do I keep falling for him? He's supposed to be the villain, and I. Her ears practically burned. Oh no, did I just say that in my head? Adrian, standing silently behind her desk, smirked. You were just thinking that you're falling for me. Sophie whipped around, face red enough to fry an egg. I didn't mean I. He stepped closer, calm but teasing. You know, most people take weeks to admit that. She groaned. I wasn't ready. This isn't a manga confession scene. His eyes softened, the usual Ice King chill replaced with warmth. I didn't realize I'd have to wait. I've been listening to you for a while. Her brain immediately started screaming. Did he just admit he's been hearing my thoughts for a while? He crouched slightly to meet her eye level. You've changed me, Sophie. I thought I was incapable of warmth, affection, even love, but somehow you make it feel natural. She froze, heart pounding. And you love me. He smirked faintly. I think I've been falling since the moment I realized I could hear your mind. Sophie blinked. Falling, like villain falling in love level. Exactly that, he whispered. And I don't want to be the Ice King anymore, not with you around. Her face burned, but a shy smile crept across her lips. So he actually loves me. I'm not dreaming. He extended his hand. So, can we try being more than boss and intern? Her heart leapt. She placed her hand in his. Yes, but only if you promise not to read all my thoughts anymore. He chuckled, entwining their fingers. I'll try, but some things I'll want to hear. And just like that, Sophie realized the villainous Ice King wasn't so villainous after all. He was just the man who had always been waiting for her. The night of the FrostCorp annual gala, Sophie felt like she'd stepped into a glittering dream. Crystal chandeliers reflected on polished marble floors, and the elite of the business world mingled in elegant gowns and sharp tuxedos. She nervously adjusted her dress, whispering in her mind, Okay, stay calm. Don't think about Adrian's gray eyes. Don't think about how he looks in a tux. Don't think about me. Her heart skipped a beat. Adrian appeared at her side, dressed impeccably, his usual icy demeanor softened by the warm candlelight. Exactly that, he teased, offering his arm. Sophie blushed and took it, thinking, I can't believe he's mine. The night was going perfectly, until they reached the dance floor. Shall we dance? Adrian asked smoothly. Yes, but I don't. Before she could protest, someone bumped into them, sending Sophie spinning into Adrian's arms. Their closeness caused a stir among nearby colleagues. Oh my, whispered a familiar voice, Spencer. So that's what's going on. Adrian glanced at him, eyebrow raised. Excuse me. Sophie's mind raced. Oh no, everyone saw. This is a disaster. Adrian smirked, pressing her gently against him. Let them watch. You're mine tonight. Sophie froze. Did he just say mine? The music swelled, and for a few magical moments, the entire gala faded. There was only them, spinning lightly, laughing quietly, hearts beating faster than the orchestra's rhythm. Even the whispers and glances from coworkers couldn't touch them. By the end of the song, Sophie's cheeks were flushed, and Adrian's rare smile made her heart soar. You know, he murmured as they stepped off the dance floor, I've never been happier pretending to be a villain. Sophie giggled. Good, because I've never been happier falling for one. The next morning, Sophie arrived at the office still floating on the high from last night's gala. Her phone buzzed with an urgent alert. Urgent, major system breach detected in FrostCorp servers. All hands on deck. Her stomach dropped. Just as she was about to panic, Adrian appeared behind her, his expression sharp and commanding. Stay calm, he said. This is serious, but we'll handle it together. Sophie nodded, though inside she was panicking. Handle it together. With the villain CEO I'm hopelessly in love with, I might faint. The office was a whirlwind of activity. Security teams scrambled, tech specialists typed frantically, and Adrian moved like a calm storm, giving precise instructions. Sophie worked beside him, her thoughts broadcasting every worry and strategy. He heard them all, but instead of scolding, he offered guidance. You're thinking too much about the what-ifs, he said softly, leaning close. Focus on the solution. We'll get through this. Focus on the solution, not on how close he is, Sophie reminded herself. Hours passed, the tension building until finally, the breach was contained. FrostCorp systems were safe, thanks to their combined effort. Adrian leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. Good work, Sophie. You were invaluable. She blushed. I couldn't have done it without you. He studied her, expression unreadable. Then he reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. You didn't falter. You didn't panic. You were perfect. Sophie's heart raced. Perfect? Did he just say I'm perfect? Before she could respond, he added softly, just like last night, I need you by my side. Not just in the gala or at the villa or in the office, but in everything. Her mind went blank, overwhelmed by relief, love, and excitement. He wants me, all of me. For the first time, Sophie realized that even the Ice King had a heart, and she was the one holding it. It was a crisp evening at FrostCorp. The city skyline shimmered behind the office windows, golden lights reflecting off glass towers. Sophie sat at her desk, a little nervous, knowing Adrian would be stopping by. He appeared without knocking, as usual, his presence commanding yet gentle. He closed the door behind him and walked toward her. "Sophie," he said softly, eyes locking onto hers. "I've been thinking." Her heart skipped. Oh no, is this a serious CEO speech or a romantic speech? "I've realized something important," he continued, kneeling beside her chair. "I don't want to be the Ice King anymore, cold, distant, untouchable. I want to be the man you see, the man who can laugh with you, fight with you, and love you." Sophie's chest tightened. He's really saying it. He reached for her hands. "Sophie Rivera, will you be mine? Not just as my intern or my confidant, but as my fiancé." Tears prickled her eyes as she nodded. Yes, Adrian. I've been waiting to hear you say that, and I've wanted this too." A rare, full smile spread across his face, warm and real. He leaned closer, brushing his lips softly against hers. It was tender, sweet, and completely theirs. The office, the city, the world outside, it all melted away. In that moment, there was only Sophie and Adrian, the villain-turned-hero, the Ice King whose heart had finally thawed. He whispered against her hair, "You've changed everything, Sophie, even me." "And you've changed me," she replied, laughing softly through tears. "Even a little villain can find love." They held each other as the city lights sparkled like stars, their hearts beating in perfect harmony. The Ice King had melted, and in his place stood a man in love, ready to face life and all its chaos, with Sophie by his side. The end.